Hello everybody. I'm going to do a video today on ways to help you maintain yourself on track, let's say, okay, on direction, knowing in the direction that you're going and being able to notice inside yourself when you're on and off track, because I think this is very useful. So if you feel as though you've lost your internal compass, this is what this video is for, okay? Because I found myself in a state like this. And the thing is, when you have lost your internal compass, sometimes it's pretty hard to realize. I don't know if you've come across this theory of, it's a metaphor, it's called internal family systems. I've talked in one of the other videos about the archetypes of Jung, and internal family systems is something kind of similar. The idea is that we have like a multitude of people inside of ourselves, all with their own motivations, all with their own objectives, all with their own fears, their own sensitivities, and they're all scratching around inside of our head like they're the citizens of a city, okay? Now, internal family systems takes us another stage further. It kind of says, imagine that all of those people are your family, right? Some are really old, some are really young. They're all at different stages of internal development. They all know more or less, you know, they all have their skills, their expertises, their fears, their wants, their needs. Ultimately, they're all pure, they're all there in aid of your, let's call it your higher self, in aid of yourself, but they have each individually picked up ways to protect you, okay? And in internal family systems, what they do, they divide this into exiles, into managers, and into firefighters. Now, I'll do another video on internal family systems, so we won't go too far down it. But so basically, the exiles are the ones that we just kind of desperately want to send away. So that, you know, the unforgiven parts of ourselves, the shameful parts of ourselves, the ones that, God forbid, if we're to expose our truths in public, we would ourselves be sent into exiles. The managers are the ones that, on a day-to-day basis, suppress the exiles. They suppress the dangerous parts of us to make sure that we get on in the world, okay? They're the ones that kind of have this background, ever-present sense of control of us. And then the firefighters are the ones, just like real firefighters, who leap into action whenever there is a moment of utter emergency, okay? Now, if there are parts of you that are exiled, okay, that you really daren't expose, that are to all intents and purposes dangerous elements of yourself, and so you're repressing them. And if your managers, and there might be a multitude of your managers, if they do this really well, you might not even be aware, right? This might be so well habituated that you simply aren't aware they're operating, okay? Now, this is all a metaphor, right? This is all, I'm not saying this is real, but it's something that people can typically relate to very, very well, because we're talking about the parts of us, the people inside of our head, the personalities, the stories, the chatter, and, you know, it is very, very relatable. So you might find that the managers are doing their job so well that the avoidances that you are avoiding are way outside of your conscious mind, but they're there, okay? Now, if that's you, if you think that for whatever reason you're just not getting on with whatever it is you want, but you feel kind of numb about it, it might be that your managers are doing a really good job. But if they are, the things to look out for are the gifts when your firefighters arrive, okay? So if you're suddenly having a conversation with someone and they provoke you in some way, there is a trigger, there is something that makes you go, oh, I am not going there, okay? And you urgently, immediately send them off track. That's your firefighters, okay? It's easier to notice your firefighters because there is a spike of adrenaline, there is a spike of fear, and something clamps down to make sure we don't go any further on that, okay? So if you notice those moments, and then you instantly push them away, pay attention. Why am I talking about that? Because when there are elements of us that we repress, okay, these exiles in the story of IFS, well, there's a number of ways we can do it, okay? We can do it with antidepressants, we can do it with medication, we can do it with alcohol, okay? We can numb ourselves chemically. We can do it through our managers, right? But the way they do it is by numbing our sensitivity to ourselves. We can do it by having a general sense of stress about us at all times, so that we can't go down those routes. We can do it by constantly avoiding ourselves, by doing things to excess. If you do anything to excess, question yourself what's going on there. It might even be just going out a lot. You know, it's kind of a way of avoiding yourself. But the end result is that there are thousands of opportunities for us to numb our sensitivity to ourselves, right? In order that we don't feel those exiled part of us. So in order that we feel safe. But the end result is that we numb our compass, okay? We stop noticing our feelings, like most of our feelings. You know, just we become so good at numbing our feelings, it's very tricky to know who we are anymore, because it seems as if we get our sense of identity from our feelings, and they truly do let us know when we're on and off track. So if we're numbing ourselves against these exiles, these shameful elements of ourselves, the parts of ourselves that we dare not expose, that we dare not even expose to ourselves, okay, because it will make us unstable. The way we do that is by numbing everything. So we kind of throw the baby out with the bathwater. And the reason I'm saying all of that is perhaps that is the reason why you're not starting whatever it is that you want to start. Because if you don't have a guide along with you for the journey, it's much more frightening, okay? If you don't know when you're on and off track because you've numbed everything down, you're far less likely to take the steps. Or perhaps you have taken some steps and you have no clue when you're on and off track. Now, there is another kind of metaphor that you need to think about with that. If you have gone some way down the path and you're not seeing any results, remember, water only boils at 100 degrees. You might have warmed the water to 30, to 50, to 60, 70, 80, 90 degrees and you're still not seeing anything. That doesn't mean to say nothing's happening, okay? So that's also worth considering. But if you genuinely feel as though you don't know where you are, you've lost your map, and you don't know which way north is pointing, right? Which way your compass is directing, it may well be that you're numbing the sensations, okay? Now, we can numb the sensations, as I say, because they're stressful, because it's dangerous to feel them. We might also be at the other end of the scale where we're kind of empathic and feeling everything, and so we kind of numb because otherwise there's just this constant chatter of noise around us. There's many, many reasons why we might do it. So in order to get the compass back, in order to know when you're on and off track, well, A, you need to realize it, okay? So I'm going to hope that the fact that you're watching the video means that you've noticed it a little bit, you've observed it. next step is to rather than pushing everything away, observe what you're feeling. Maybe not even necessarily lean into it straight away. If it's really uncomfortable, okay, honor that being uncomfortable. But observe, right? Now, how can you observe? Right? This is why mindfulness is so popular at the minute. Breathing exercises, basically calming your autonomic nervous system. You know, you have your sympathetic nervous system, which is automatically increasing every time you breathe in, your parasympathetic nervous system, which is calming you down every time you take a breath out. Okay, these two work in sync, in parallel. So if you can learn either mindfulness to observe yourself, meditation, or you can learn a little bit about breathing exercises that will calm you down. Okay. Deepen your breaths to the point where you're only doing maybe 6, 7, 8 breaths a minute, something like that. Try beginning by making your breathing out twice as long as you're breathing in. It's a very good way of instantly calming your system. Negotiate ways within inside of you to permit yourself to calm down momentarily and then observe your feelings. Because what happens is, once you're back in a state of relative calm, you can notice that most feelings come and go. They don't hang around forever, okay? And so similarly then, when you start to do that, when you can start to place your feelings and notice their transitory nature, and maybe even start to observe how they interrelate with each other. Maybe you can even spatially locate them. You can identify them in your body. You can actually point to the place where they are in your body. Or you can notice when you think about them where your eyes are going, which part of you that you're looking at. Are they up here, or are they really deep in your gut, sort of thing. All of that observing is getting you back into trusting the feelings, right? And that's how we retain or regain our sense of ourself, our sense of our identity. It comes from our feelings. So effectively what I'm saying is, ultimately, if you're too much in your head, you need to permit yourself to be back in your body. Right? If you're an overthinker, I was one of these people who used to think my brain was simply transported by my body. I don't like that at all, you know? We learn who and what we are and what we resonate with and what we don't from our feelings. They are felt in our body. It's absolutely essential if we want to know whether we're on and off track, that we engage with our feelings, which means, unfortunately, engaging with all feelings. So we have to trust ourselves, yeah? And the way to trust yourself is by learning how to calm yourself down, so that if a difficult thought comes up, okay, you know, I can calm myself down, observing that all of the emotions are transitory, and therefore getting to the point in your mind, to go back to the beginning of the story, where we can start to manage the multitude in our head. Imagine a city that has no government, okay? Imagine a family that has no family head. Imagine any system. It needs a set of rules by which to run it, okay? Now, normally in our head, what happens is that we tend to identify more with one or two of these personas running inside of ourselves. They tend to become dominant, and we tend to exclude or quieten the others. When you permit yourself your whole range of emotions, you're more likely to permit those quieter voices to express themselves, okay? So what I'm saying is, by trusting yourself, you permit all of the stories to exist, and therefore all to have a voice, you know? You can stand in front of the dominant voices and say, okay, all right, I've heard you. Could you just just sit over there for a minute and let's scan the terrain. Let's see what else is going on inside of me. Let's invite other voices, you know. It's like canvassing all of the opinions inside of yourself. The end result is very rich, right? So you can find new perspectives on yourself. This is now kind of going into the territory of that archetypes video that I talked about. So you might want to have a look at that. Yeah, I think that's enough on that subject. I hope that's useful. The whole principle of this is to get you comfortable with knowing what you know. Okay? When we deny what we know, we have to cut off so much of ourselves that we lose our sense of self. When we own what we know, when we know what we know, when we're okay being us, or even if we're not okay being us, but we accept the fact that we are what we are currently, that is your springboard for progress. Okay? You can't make progress until you know where you stand, right? So you have to own that reality. So you have to be comfortable to know what you know. And the way you do that is in your body. It's not overanalyzing. You can overanalyze forever. Overanalyzing is a little bit like kind of solving an unsolvable conundrum. Yeah? Some things you cannot put in words. Some feelings we don't have words for. So if we limit ourselves to our thought processes, it's pretty hard. This is why talk therapy isn't necessarily going to solve all the problems. Okay, what we need to do is we need to process feelings inside of ourselves in order to discover the vocabulary that might be able to approximate it. Yeah, we can't do it the other way around. It doesn't work. We don't have the words for it. That's kind of turned into a bit of a long and rambling video, but I hope it's useful. Yeah, it kind of explains what it is that I'm talking about in terms of making direction, overthinking, trusting your feelings, getting into your body, becoming you. Right? This is just the keys to the kingdom are in relating to yourself in your entirety, right? That all goes back to authenticity. Thank you for watching. I hope that might be interesting. It's quite a thought-provoking one, but I think it's at the crux of a lot of stuff that people are dwelling on. I'll do another video for if your emotions are in hyperdrive, if they're constantly going on. But nonetheless, with that, I think the way to calm them is through breathing exercises and mindfulness. It's a fantastic way to step by step, day by day, trust your experience. Yeah. Ultimately, we're all working on the ways that work for us. We're already efficient, good machines. It's just that we've learned habits that were relevant in the past that aren't necessarily relevant today, but they keep on running in the background. You might consider all of these personalities in your brain as kind of like embodied habits. It's just a metaphor, but I find it a very useful metaphor. All right, thank you very much for watching. I hope that's illuminating. It might be thought-provoking. If it is, let me know, yeah? What you've got to understand from these videos is that unless you comment back, I have no idea if this is useful or not, yeah? And I do want to create a two-way stream. So let me know. Maybe have a look at the archetypes video as well, if this resonates with you, because that might as well. Effectively, the whole thing is stories running inside of our head, but when we embody these stories with significance, they come to direct us. All right, thanks for watching. Take care. Bye.